hand and a phone in the other. Next up, Augustine Correa from Hackerspace Mumbai will talk to us about identity and authorization for cloud native OSS. Thank you.
Hello. Oh, cool. So who are you? This is not supposed to be a rhetorical question, right, for you guys out. Who am I? This is a really talk intrinsic to cloud security just in general, okay? Now, why am I here on this stage? So, as you can see top, I'm the Microsoft MVP for developer technology and AI platform. I'm also the Auth0 ambassador that was there, that program till last year. And I'm also the GitHub community leader in Bombay. Cool? Now, essentially, in a nutshell, the intent is all this, right? You want to access your resource, but even the bad guy wants to do that, right? So that's why you have to protect it. Cool? Am I right or wrong? Right, right? Okay. So let's get a few essential in case, okay? So this is a talk not to make sure that I know my security talk, is to ensure you can secure and understand the basics of what's actually happening out here. So now let's get a few things. What is an entity out here in the security landscape? Is the thing that is an individual unit, right? Anything, right? And this happens in this exam, me, myself. Identity is a set of attributes that will distinguish you in a context. Okay? Am I clear with you on that? Now, as an entity, I will use my identity to distinguish myself in that context. Now, remember, I'm stressing the word context. Why? You look at it, my driving license, okay? Or let's take my passport. I'm an Indian citizen with an Indian passport, and if I show that to an Indian traffic constable or police, he say, what are you doing? I don't care if you have this, you can go to Thailand, you can go to US. I want to know, can you drive a monster truck on our road, right? Because that is what the identity is meant in that particular context. You have to have that. So, the important thing, entity, identity, the observer. So, I as entity will use my identity to authenticate myself with the observer. Clear? So, we got that right. Now, let me take you a whirlwind tour of how we have already progressed from here. First, we have our own ubiquitous password channel mechanism, right? You think this is old? No. Still our majority system use this. I'm not saying anything because it's same like jellyfish. There are 500 million jellyfish and 1 billion, right, humans, because it's very simple and easy to understand. So how do we progress? Hey, some of us in a long time got a coaxial together, plug all the computers, and hey, we got a network. Now we have multiple computers, each app, and what? Each app have their own authentication system. So now I had to add a whole lot of passwords to remember, right? If Khan was talking about Vault Warden, think about that. I had to now remember. There were no vaults on our time. It was all in my head to remember all the passwords. So this to do that. The second point which I want to point out to you, hey, the network infrastructure now had your identity information, right? So I, as individual guys, didn't have to build my own authentication management logic. Some central cathedral had everything. I just had to authenticate that and dude, done, right? But even in that, we had some issues. Hello. Kerberos. Have you heard of this? The old daddy, right? So even with LDAP, we had something called a LDAP bind. I'm not going to go into it, something to authenticate, but a whole lot of nightmares with that. The two things that came up, Web Access Manager. The only thing you have to remember this, it introduced a new thing. It had a domain-wide session cookie that was now validated. The third thing that which Kerberos did was everything was now encrypted, even your tokens. Before this, nothing was, right? We have now Bucharest or something. We have now seen, okay, different types of attacks come through. Hey, dude, we need to encrypt our tokens. This is the one thing that's set up straight for that. And if you are The constraint with those Kerberos was that I was living through my own network. But the world was getting more interconnected, right? So the big guys thought, hey, dude, I'm sitting in one company, I have to make an order in another company. How do I go about that? So something, have you noticed, called shadow accounts. They used to create a replica of my account in that system. Now, you know what's the problem with that? If I left this organization, my account was still valid in that enterprise. So if there was another guy, or I've left on bad terms with the company, I could skip an order of 10,000 something, which was not rare, right? See the issues out here? So that was it. So now we came with something called as SAML, this security access markup language, right? Assertion markup language. So what was it? Now we were sessioning out. If I make a request to that, the SAML would be called something as a good word in all our human relation, trust. It was trusting this. So when you say trust, what do we mean? It means the resource that I'm accessing, it trusts the authority about the claim that is made by the user. Right? So trust is a very generic English word, but in security, it means that I am willing to accept what the identity provider or the authority is claiming about me. Now, all of you have got a token. Do you know that? You are in this soon, right? You are in this FOSSASIA. You have a token. There are claims on this token, right? It claims your name, Roland. Someone else, hey dude, I'm a speaker. I'm here. But I am because there's an authority you trusted. The registration desk validated and come and they're allowing you in. See, don't think it's very technical. We have learned from the real world. And the real world also learned from the technical. And we are both kind of growing together. So hey, this is what is it? SAML. This standard is still used between enterprise to enterprise. Okay? It's still valid. The only thing is, it's too heavy. So it's not great for internet. Now, let's get the second slide. What is authentication? I use my identity to validate myself, right? To an observer. What does entity does in terms of authorization? I will use that identity to know what I can access, and that is authorization. So make that difference between clear authentication versus authorization. Now, take this example out here. How would you do in the old days? You joined Event A, you logged in, right? You all have Event A registration. Clear? Have you seen the registration page of Event A? You logged in? Now suppose if I wanted to say, hey folks, to my Gmail contacts, hey, if I've joined Event A, come join me. What would I do in those old days? I would have to give Event A my and password to send out all the mails to my contacts. Do you know what is the problem in that? First, it has access, Event A will have access to all my address, all my messages, all my everything, right? Now suppose it's compromised. Google have Event A client about pre-reset your password. See, look how the change we have, the issues that we'll encounter with that. Secondly, a lot of the changes has actually be done by mobile, okay? Now, the good old days, I as a server would have called it, session cookie, credentials, session cookie sent out, all okay. Why? Because it's all in the same domain, right? But the proliferation of internet and the ubiquity of my mobile made sure the origins were different. How many know what is an origin when you do in 1, 2, 3? Okay, so that's good work. Put this in hashtag TIL. Origin, your scheme, HTTP, HTTPS, domain name. What would be the third thing? No, not the guy who raised the hand. What do you think would be the third thing out here? The scheme, the domain name, port, right? So think about, I could still not forget. I could have example.com, but this would be 80, but the API would be something else, right? 84 or something. That would feel still another different domain. And why I had to do that? Because of mobile ubiquity. Because now I have to cater to the API economy, right? Just not keep my APIs closed just to me, but open up, unlock that value. So hey, now I have to get this done. So now I got a problem. Because domain or the browser won't allow a cross-origin calls, right, to come through. So I had to work around that. And then the industry came up with this, the OR2, right, the framework. I'm going to give you a short, or actually the standard way about it. There are two aspects. I, as an app, will make a call to any app. Event A. Event A would redirect me to an authorization provider. Now, the thing about this, both the identity provider or the domain authority, as well as the resource owner, is both the same. Remember? Connect with Google. Even if you have nothing to do with Google, you just want to audit because you already have a Gmail account. So now, Google becomes your authorization server, right? It connects. So what happens out here? I will send the auth code. Just assume it to be an opaque string, okay? It only knows because if my app send, even it sends to authorization server, it knows, hey, dude, this guy asked for that permission. With this was the token, and with these kind of permission requests. It goes that. Now, the cool thing about here is, this authorization server exposes a minimum of 2 endpoints. One endpoint is between humans and the software. You, when you put in your credentials, yeah, Gmail credential. Second is the token endpoint. This is a purely software to software play, right? The app sends that token or token, and it gets an access token for that token endpoint. And that's the access token endpoint you send to the Gmail API. Hey, I want the contacts, and then, hey, you got the access. Now, even in that, sorry. I want to point a few things. We like to economize, right? I like to think all of our developers are like Indians. We have it, we're going to reuse things out here. So what we did, hey, dude, I had the access. But remember the title of my slide? Who are you? How do you know who is the guy? What is his identity? I came Augustine, he says he's Roland. Okay? What we did, we tried to piggyback on the OR2 itself. We just send a token. Now, what's the problem with this? What's the problem with this? Here, identity guys, LDAP, okay, there was a new brief of professionals started with directors now, identity administrators. You know the guy, you have a problem, oh, you need to format your machine. These kind of guys, right? So, hey, who are you? Hey, this guy is Augustine Correa. But guess what? The format that Gmail sends, or LinkedIn would send, or GitHub would send, are not standardized. So you had to have a three-way kind of work between the authorization, the app, and the API. This is what it happened. So we learned from that, right? And from that, we came to this. Dude, let's not muck around and come with our own artisanal formats. We will come with a single standard specification called as ID token. Cool? So now it does that. Now here's the crucial thing between this and that. I'm going to reuse this slide because we have in PDF. In PPT it will be different. So I'm sending it. Okay, who's going to use the ID token? Who needs to use the ID token? Does the Gmail API needs to use it? No, right? It's only the client, because the client needs to know who you are. The Gmail guy knows it. Actually, he's not even concerned about it. He just wants to know what is the access right for this particular request. That's it. Can he or she access the calendar, my calendar, this calendar? That's it. But the app wants to know, hey, dude, his name is Augustine Correa. He works for Hackerspace Mumbai, or he's a Microsoft MP, or whatever that. Okay, so only the client requires the ID token. The ID token is never sent to the API. Saw that? Only the access token. And the ID token is only sent to the app, Event A. Event A needs to know who you are. Your name, your CTO, your passport. Gmail, your Gmail account doesn't for that access to the API. Clear on this? So what we're sending it for? Now, yeah, let me go forward. So, most of the thing, what was done out there? The changes were actually brought by, paradigm shifts, right? Hey, now we had internet, 1990, 200s, that made the changes. Then we had mobile, then we had to change our change. What is the new thing out here in this? Cloud and microservices, right? Microservice, aka containers, okay? for all purposes. So now what are the issues that you get? These are all. How many of you are working on containers or microservices? Yeah, this, you have dealt with all of this, okay? Every one of you have got into production at least. Now, not a talk on .NET or Aspire. I just want to give out, a correlation between what's happening. So Aspire is basically an orchestration for the local loop. If you have ever done local development for microservice, it's a nightmare. Forget about production. On the local, you just cannot pinpoint what's happening wrong, right? It still brings up to it works on my machine, but that doesn't care for a lot. Now, what we have done, we are using the same paradigm that we choose for our stuff, cloud native, right? So the key cloud is also another container that acts in it, because you need to secure the app at the end of the day. So for a guide of attendees of FOSSASIA, these are important, right? Is it open source? Yeah. Does it do what it needs to do on the tin? Yeah. Does it work with the industry standard? Yeah. All check marks on there. And the third one is, yes, we want a central place, right? I don't want to have multiple sources of truth, because it changes, right? You can have a lot of problems with that. Now,
we're at time.
we're at time?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I'll allow you to take a minute to wrap, because we've got a few minutes before the next speaker, but I'd like him to set up. Gaurav, yeah, can you work with those guys to get your presentation on screen?
Okay. Good. So, there are some issues, right? I mean, we did this talk in Hanoi, and that time we were just a little ephemeral. But this January, why I applied for this talk? Because now we have come with recommendation, official recommendation, what do you need to do? This is called R9700. Hey, we want to make sure, redirects, boss, make sure there is no pattern. It has to be exact. Okay? If you have something like this, a hash wildcard, the bad guys can abuse it. Don't assume. Even your subdomain, make sure that is not wildcard, because we have known cases where they have been able to capture the subdomain and redirect the folks there. Okay? So, and that is the same with open redirect, query string. Make sure that's part of your access allowed list. Don't make sure anything is out there. First, Pixie. Pixie is really great, because your auth code has a problem. Auth point 2.1, we will not make sure. Even the confidential client will be recommended to use Pixie. This is another way to make sure CI serif and all those are covered up. Right, sender constraint. This, if you have worked on any containers, Kubernetes services, you require mutual TLS, right? Both the client and the server needs to agree on that connection request. All the requests have to be secured and encrypted. Third, this is something for one of the grant flows which we are not, same like implicit, we are not going to now support it in 2.1 because there are a lot of issues with that. This was actually done to make sure we have back compatibility resource. Everybody knows as APIs, open APIs, to describe the API. Even authorization servers have something like that. Do that, find out, because if there's any disagreement, even the authorization under a bit issues. Cool. And last, this talk is because Vittorio, he's a great guy. I worked with him. Passkey, this guy was the driving force for it, right? His passion was very great for it. Thank you for your talk. And if you want, you can follow me on Mastodon and all. Because of constraint time, I want to make sure that key code, this is an implementation. It's on GitHub. Follow it. All good to go. Thank you.
Hang on. Very cool. Now we get to the most difficult kind of coordination. Please put the new slides up. We've got time for one question. No one's going to ask about passkey? Okay. Very brief.
Thank you. I keep breaking key cloak authentication because it's not easy to write unit tests for this. Do you have any advice?
We want to make everything's testable, obviously at the unit level, and we are working on it, because that's not only a problem with you, we have that issue, right? And we keep on always hammering. So that is one of the feedback that has gone up. Give me around 1 quarter, 2 quarters, we'll address that too.
All right. Thank you, Augustine.